Hi, and welcome everybody to another edition of the Winner Circle Sports Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Ross Benjamin, joined as always by that gentleman to the right of me, Mr. Chip Chirimbus, who resides in Las Vegas, Nevada, originally from Connecticut. Excuse me, I almost said Kentucky. And right now he's in Hollywood, Florida. So he's a man that gets around the globe. But one thing is consistent. He continues to win. Mr. Chip, how are you today?
I'm great. I've settled in down in South Florida, and I'm back on track in the NBA and college basketball, and looking forward to each and every day.
You're looking tan, my brother. You've been on that beach, huh?
Well, not that often, just, maybe 45 minutes, an hour a day, but I think it's in my Mediterranean blood, so I have a little dark pigment, and I love it down here. And now that we've got things going on the websites and in the NBA and college basketball, like I said, getting up every day is a pleasure. And you know how difficult it is sometimes to get your head off the pillow.
Oh, yeah. It was very difficult on Wednesday. I suffered my worst ever day in my career on Tuesday. But you know what? I got up the next day and I said I took a step back. I had the whole house carpeted, including my office, took the day off, give my mind a rest, and re-energize. And today, 3 NBA plays, 3 college basketball plays. Again, we're recording on Thursday, the 25th. So your window of opportunity is very small, if indeed you even get this video before the games start. But we are going to be discussing Friday's NBA action, and we're going to each give you a free pick at the end of the video. So let's get right to it, Chip. Let's start with the Phoenix at Chicago game that starts at 8:05 p.m. Eastern time. Phoenix right now a 5-point favorite, and the total in this game is 227.5. Your thoughts?
We've got two really hot teams here, the way I see it. Phoenix comes in going 5-1 against the number on the road, 8-2 against the favorites. And Russ, going back to the bubble last year when they covered all 8 games, when people said they had to win all 8 to make the playoffs, they didn't, still didn't get in.
Yeah.
They're 28-11 in their last 39, and that's tremendous. Chicago, meanwhile, who burned me with going overtime against Minnesota, prevented me from sweeping the board on Wednesday night. 14-5 as underdogs, 5-1 against the number in their last 6. But in the long run, believe it or not, in the last 49 games, now we understand Chicago's a much better team now with the emergence of Zach LaVine, 16-33 as home dogs. That's horrible. But they've gone over at home 7 of the last 9. Phoenix has gone over 5 straight times, and as favorites. And rather than try and buck the total or figure this out, because if I get involved in going with Chicago and get beat or take Phoenix, I just can't because of that overtime loss on Wednesday. I'm going to play this game over the total. Phoenix 5-0 over the last 5 times favored, and here's Chicago 7-2 to the over the last 9 home dog. Last 9 times they were a home dog. So I'm playing this game over the total.
That's great information, and that's from Chip Chirimbus of chipwins.com. Add a little to that. Not only have the Suns gone over in their last 5, Chipper, their last 8 when the total is 220 or more have all gone over the total, and that speaks to what you just said. And also the Chicago Bulls 3-0 straight up in ATS in their last 3 games, Chip. And why I mention that, there's a lot of teams that go 3-0 straight up in ATS in their last 3, but their offense red hot right now. Again, going to your high scoring where you were going with your conversation there, the Bulls 125 points scored per game in that 3-game win streak, as well as shooting 57.5% from the field, and Chipper 42.9% from 3-point land, which is excellent. And on the other hand, is the Suns, you touched upon their 5-game winning streak. And during that win streak, Chip, they're scoring 127.4 points per game, shooting 53.2% from the field, and making an outrageous 47.7% of their 3-point shots, Chip. So that's some pretty red hot shooting. 2 teams that are playing awfully well. Phoenix is coming off a loss, but they've also gone 3-0 straight up in ATS in their last 3 off a loss, and 12-3 straight up in ATS in their last 15 overall. On to the next game, Chip. Utah at Miami. And man, oh man, are the Utah Jazz playing unbelievable basketball, 22 and 2 straight up in their last 24, and 21 and 3 ATS in those 24 contests, which is even more mind boggling.
Yeah.
It can't seem to be overvalued. So, Miami, on the other hand, Chip, they come in on a nice streak of 4-0 straight up in ATS in their last four. And Utah did defeat them 112-94 at home back on February 13th. But I will say this, and I think you're going to touch upon this as well. This may be the healthiest that Miami has been all season long.
Yeah, well, they did lose their playoff hero. He's going to be out. Tyler Hero is going to be out, missing here. He has a hip pointer, and but they have gained what's his Goran Dragic.
Yes.
He's coming back. It's been a very disappointing year for Miami. Like we said, they've had virus issues, they've had injury issues. Only 5-9-1 against the number at home, and they've lost the last four meetings against the number to this Utah team. And Utah 11-4 on the road for the season, but they covered 8 of the last 10 on the road. The thing here that concerns me, that bothers me, if I was to back the Jazz, is that they're off this big win against the Lakers, and the Lakers were undermanned in that game, and we're aware of that. Miami's 1-5 against Utah at home in the last 6 meetings, getting points, but they are 8-3 straight up in their last 11 games. I just think moving across country after a big win over the Lakers and Miami getting Dragic back, I'm looking for Miami. They're very well coached. I know I'm really high on their coaching, and I think that Miami has a shot here to cover the spread, even to possibly win. Jimmy Butler has been in and out, but he didn't make the All-Star game, so maybe he has some incentive here to show that the NBA has made a mistake in leaving him out.
Well, you know what? He didn't make the All-Star game because he's missed a lot of time. I mean, I think
Yeah,
that's
that
the
too.
main factor right there. And it's been hard for players coming off an injury this year because there's not a lot of practice time because of the condensed schedule, Chip.
Yep.
And then you mentioned also Miami with all those COVID issues. They haven't even had enough players to scrimmage 5-on-5 at times this season. So,
Yep.
I'm not making excuses. It's the reality of the situation. But two teams playing very well right now. The only thing I would say is this is a short number at 3.5, and that really raised my antennas. Now, it's very rare that I'll say a short number for a favorite at 3.5 if they're on the road. But
Right.
all things considered, the disparity of the records, how well Utah's been playing, how hot they've been for such a prolonged period of time. To me, this looks like a sucker bet. It looks like the books are trying to lure you into taking a home underdog here. And I'd be awful careful and really cross your T's and dot your I's when handicapping this game. Portland at the Lakers, Chipper. The Lakers -5 and 221 as we speak. Again, folks, we're recording on the 25th, which is a Thursday evening. These games are going to be played on the 26th. So all these lines are subject to change depending on when you view the video. I know one thing, the Lakers aren't playing very well right now.
Wow.
Boy, oh boy, do they miss Anthony Davis. And they also missed their starting point guard, Dennis Schroeder, who's been out with COVID on COVID protocols, and he's questionable to return tomorrow night. But very undervalued, Dennis Schroeder. He's been very good on a lot of bad teams in his career, Chip. And this year he's averaging a solid 14 points per game for the Lakers, and he's been a great asset for them. So, and then Anthony Davis, I think we mentioned off air, it affects their defensive play too, because he's one of the best shot blockers in all the NBA. Chip, your thoughts here?
Well, my thoughts are the Lakers are really trying to do without much firepower. Like you said, Schroeder's outside shooting really, really helps open it up. And with Davis gone, not only defensively are they hurting, but he's a great balancer option when LeBron has the ball and LeBron could kick it out or bring it into Davis. But I think Portland has lost the last 3 in a row after a great run. But in spite of that, I think they're 6-1 in their last 7 as an underdog. But I have a crazy stat for you here. Portland playing in Los Angeles. I don't know about their straight up record, but against the points, they've covered 22 of the last 30 at LA. And that's an incredible number. The Lakers are only 5-11 against the number at home, 1-6 in their last 7 as home favorites. But I hate the way the Lakers lost to Utah on Wednesday night with
Yeah.
LeBron James's mentality. I think they're going to come down and they're going to look to play a really tough defensive game. And 11 of the last 14 meetings between these two in Los Angeles has gone under the total. And the Lakers are also 6-1 to the under after a straight up loss. No Anthony Davis. And this, I don't know about if this is really much of a factor. Maybe they have rested legs, are stronger on the defensive end. With 1 day's rest, when they get just the 1 day, not 2, not multiple, 1 day's rest, the Lakers are 20-7 to the under. So I think that's the way I'm going to go here. I don't really trust Portland, and it's tough to take LA. The line is kind of shallow at -5, but even so, without AD and without their point guard, I don't see how it can be much higher. So I think that this is going to be a defensive game, and I think LeBron's going to look to control the ball and for the Lakers to keep it slow, because it's obvious they're not going to be able to run with anybody. They just don't have the firepower right now.
Yeah. They're one of the best teams in transition. Having said that,
Yeah.
offensive transition, that is. You made one of the stats you rattled off there, which really caught my attention, is 6-1 under the total this year off a loss. Is that what that was?
They are 6-1 off a straight up loss. Yes.
Yeah, 6-1 to the under.
Yes.
Is that what you said? Okay, so
Yeah. In
that
the last
tells
7.
that goes hand in hand to what you said about LeBron off a loss, a day of rest. It's almost like they clamp down defensively after they lose a
Yeah.
game. So
Yeah.
I will say this though, again, I'd like to know how many of them. I would venture to say that probably. Well, I can't even say that. I was going to say venture to say most of those circumstances were with Anthony Davis in the lineup, but that's not true because they've lost their last 4 and they failed
Yeah.
to cover their last 4. And you mentioned Portland and ATS ATM machine when they play at the Staples Center of late. And also another point, Chipper, is Portland is 8-5 straight up in their last 13 on the road, covering 10 of those 13. And if they were a road underdog of 6 or less during that time, they went 6-0 against the spread, and they won 4 of those 6 contests outright. So
Right.
again, a lot of things to consider going into this game tomorrow. And is the Lakers going to lose 5 in a row? We'll soon find out. But
Yeah, we
remember,
will.
you don't have to win the game straight up if you like the underdog. You just got to cover the numbers. So, Chipper, that
Right.
takes us to this. Before we get to our free pick, tell folks how they can reach you and where they can find you and what's going on with
Well,
the A play.
Well, thank you, Ross. And what's going on is I've settled into South Florida and I have my rhythm back. Just missed going 3-0 in the NBA last night. Lost in overtime with the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yes.
But regardless, you go to the A play or chipwins.com. And if you want to work out any kind of special deal, you can call me direct. There's a number there for you, 702-931-CHIP. That's 702-931-2447. And I do have a free play for you today, Ross, if you want me to get to it with the Pacers and
Absolutely.
the Celtics. Okay, Indiana, they're struggling. They lost, what was his name, Levert, after making the
Harris
trade.
LeVert, yes.
Yeah, and so they're 0-4 in their last 4 as underdogs. In the last 11 meetings against Boston, they've only covered twice. They're 2-5-2. But Boston, they've lost their last 3. They've lost 8 of their last 11, and they are really struggling. But at home, they're 8-3 when favored. I can see Boston bouncing back after that horrid road trip, and we played against them for the most part on the road. And I could see them coming here and as a small favorite right now. I think they're opening 3, and I would lay the Celtics here against the Pacers. I'd say it's a shaky, not a great play out there because of the way Boston's been playing, but they are well coached. And I look for this team to, rally around the lamppost and to get their act together. I think Boston gets the best of the Pacers on Friday night.
Can make a case that Boston's the most disappointing team this season, right, Chip? I mean, nobody else really comes to my mind off the top of my. With all considered, though, I mean, a team that got to the Eastern Conference Finals last year,
Yeah.
lost to Miami there. and a lot of high hopes going into this season, but it hasn't transpired, Chip. So, yeah,
Well,
any
they've lost Gordon Hayward, and people don't understand what
yes,
an all-around value he
yeah,
is. He's a great passer and offensive guy. I don't know if his defense is the same as it was before he shattered his ankles, but I think he was a cog in their
yeah,
offense last year that is missing.
yeah, absolutely. You can't undervalue that loss.
Yeah.
And also Indiana, you mentioned Karis LeVert, who came over in that blockbuster trade, three-way
Right.
trade, I believe it was. And Indiana gave up Victor Oladipo. I hope I pronounced his name right.
Yeah.
And he's a pretty good player. He's a guy who's close to a 20-point a night guy when he was with
Yeah.
Indiana. And they expected to replace that with LeVert. And lo and behold, LeVert's out right now. Hopefully, the young man who suffered from cancer recovers. By all
Right.
indications, he will. And that'll make a big difference once he gets back in the lineup for them next year. In any event, I am going to look at the Phoenix and Chicago game. I'm going to revert back. I just love the way Chicago has competed this year, Chip.
Yeah.
They don't have the most talent in the league. They don't have the most talent in the Eastern Conference. And they're not an NBA contender by any stretch of the imagination in terms of winning a championship, but they are a contender to make the playoffs the way they've been playing. And this is a type of game where they're playing at home and they're taking on a Suns team that's 12-3 straight up in ATS in their last 15 games. Just a terrific turnaround for Phoenix, starting with the end of last year, like you said, Chip, going into this year. But Chicago's played awfully well, especially of late, 3-0 straight up in ATS in their last five, shooting lights out. And Phoenix right now, they started out very well defensively, but of late have really waned a bit in that area. I like Chicago here. I think that there's value in home underdog, Chip. So I'm going to go with the Chicago Bulls plus the 5 at home over Phoenix on Friday, February 26th. Chip Chirimbus is on the Boston Celtics -3 over Indiana. You could find all his picks at chipwins.com. It's there. You can get the A play as well. And you're getting that from a AAA handicapper in Chip Chirimbus. You can find me at rbwins.com. 16-10, my last 26 in the NBA. Good for 62%. Folks, big cards in Saturday college basketball. We're going to talk about that on tomorrow's podcast. You could join us then. And but college basketball 10-star top plays 66-42 over my last 108. That's good for 61%. It's not a fluke when it lasts that long, Chipper.
No.
You know that
No.
as well as I do. So until the next time, for Chip Chirimbus and Ross Benjamin, good luck and God bless, folks.